There we go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another season of Blazers Uprise post-game shows. Today, the Blazers start their season off. Eric, they lose to the Los Angeles Clippers. They make the score more respectable than it really was down the stretch as the Blazers got down by the biggest deficit of 30 points. And this was a bit of a struggle in this game. We're going to go into why, what went wrong, the ins and outs of this game, and break it all down for you like we normally do. We got another season full of these post-game streams coming for you. Now, we've got a new graphics setup. Don't really have much of what I want to debut this season, so I'm going to roll it out as we get going. I got Chris working on player cards. Those aren't ready yet. So this is just going to be kind of like a laid-back post-game stream. Not too much, but we're going to talk basketball, Eric, which is what we've been dying to talk about for the longest time now. We've wanted to talk about games, break down games, and now they're finally here, and the first one is in the books. First, let's just start off with, how are you feeling about this game? Because obviously expectations are different going into this year, but this game was definitely a struggle.
Yeah, I've said it many times leading up to this season. I just want to see them play hard and start to show some of the things that Chauncey's been preaching, stuff like that. I don't think that got off to a good start. They didn't run hardly at all, which is disappointing, especially against a team like the Clippers. And the Clippers, for being as old as they are, really outran us. And so I was really disappointed in that. Gave up a ton of open lay-ins and stuff like as well. It's just, I was kind of disappointed in some of the effort level plays and just basic basketball stuff, schemes and coaching and all that kind of stuff. Just kind of seemed like we expected to lose this game and weren't necessarily trying as hard as we should have.
Yeah, man, this was just a weird game. I don't know if it's a lack of game shape, only 4 preseason games, and a lot of key players didn't play a ton in the preseason. You have to wonder about conditioning maybe a little bit, and also just being mentally ready for what an NBA regular season game is. Obviously, it's tough when you got a lot of young guys on the team, but also, I don't think they made the fullest use of preseason. I thought they should have played their starters more. Would have been nice for Robert Williams to play. I understand he banged knees and they were going to be more cautious than anything, but it sounds like he could have played. They just wanted to be cautious. He looked a little bit rusty tonight, and this team just looked out of sorts offensively. And it's funny because the turnover numbers actually aren't as bad as it feels, because there was a lot of just half-court possessions where they had really sloppy passes and it didn't result in a turnover, but they didn't really get into anything during this game offensively, especially in the half court. And me and you were talking about on our watch party, man, when was the last time we saw an off-ball screen? Just not much movement, not much action, just very stagnant offense, and it's kind of what I expected, but this team doesn't have the type of guys that can just break people down consistently off the dribble one-on-one. They don't have Damian Lillard where they can go give him the ball and he'll hit 3 straight threes off a screen and carry the team that way. So offensively, they put 111 on the board, and it got better, I felt like, in the second half. I think a big part of that was Malcolm Brogdon. But man, the style of offense was definitely rough, and it kind of confirmed some of my fears about this team is going to struggle in the half court. Problem is they couldn't really get out and run. They were 6 for 23. Yeah, they didn't really try. They were 6 for 23 from 3, so they finished 4 for 9. They finally started hitting some shots at the end of the game, which made the score more respectable. But before then, man, they struggled generating good shots for the most part until halfway there through this third quarter. So I think that was kind of the microcosm of this game, at least on the offensive side of the ball, because the defense was a struggle too.
Yeah, I'm really curious to. I mentioned this before we went on the air, hoping we get to listen to Chauncey's post-game interview, because this season I'm just going to get fed up with the excuses, man. They talked ad nauseum about how no Dame means they can free up the offense to be free-flowing and have all this movement and passing and no stagnation. And I saw a ton of four guys standing around while one person dribbled into traffic and got nowhere, and no one was available to pass the ball to, and stuff like that. If that's Chauncey's offense again this year, uh, I think we might be the worst team in the league because like we can't we just can't do that on a consistent basis. We have to move the ball around, and we have to have player movement off ball, and there's just no way around that. Like I don't understand how that's not obvious. Like Chauncey even said that we need to have those things.
Yeah, the guard play just didn't feel steady this entire game. That's going to happen when you have a 19-year-old point guard, but I do think Malcolm Brogdon getting going offensively and just playing at his pace kind of calmed down this team a little bit. It just felt like this team was like mentally frantic all game. Like not marking their man on box outs, not making the right rotations. Like it just didn't seem locked in mentally. And then offensively, even though they weren't playing in transition and playing on the fast break in the half court, it felt like they were either stuck in mud or too sped up, one or the other. Neither is good. But Brogdon came in and kind of played. He plays at a very steady, like slower pace. Kind of reminds you a little bit of Andre Miller. Had an Andre Miller-esque like sideline lull the defense to sleep and then drive to the basket. He had an Andre Miller-esque play like that, and I thought the offense looked better when he was running it there in the third quarter because they kind of calmed down a little bit. In the first half, it was, you saw Scoot like jump up and throw like a lob pass that almost went out of bounds towards the sideline at half court, and just some of the decisions they were making were very, very weird in this game. And just sloppy. You know, the turnover numbers don't do it justice. 18 turnovers. They actually had the same amount of turnovers as us, believe it or not, but just felt like everything was all out of sorts, at least until Brogdon got going, and then guys were able to get some good shots off him, and the offense finally found like a little bit of consistency and was able to go on a run. I think they went on a 17-5 run there late in the second half. So, you know, Brogdon, that's what he's going to be, is a guy that can slow things down, calm things down, be that steady force for the offense. But at some point, and this is what we're looking for this season, like Scoot has to become that type of guy where he can run the offense and he can calm it down, because in his NBA debut, man, he just didn't look like the type of prospect that a lot of people were expecting even his rookie year. But as I said, you got to preach patience with a 19-year-old point guard, so I'm not disappointed or anything. It's just you know, it's going to be a little rough with him being the starting point, running the offense until he can kind of get his feet wet.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so you want to dive into Scoot right now, or do you want to wait for the player cards?
So we do have a Scoot player card. Right, we got 3 player cards ready. We got Scoot,
Okay.
Ayton, and Ant, but I don't have them set up yet, so I'd have to set them up. But I can do that right now. If you want to wait on that.
Yeah. So someone said Chauncey was giving them credit for their tough defense for why the offense struggled. Horse crap, dude. Like, this is what I do not want to hear this season. That's exactly what I'm talking about. We played the same Stotts type offense when we had Carmelo, and that's throw the ball into Carmelo or LaMarcus Aldridge or put this in there. What would happen was we'd throw him the ball, and all the other 4 guys would just stand and watch as he dribbled, and then shot a turnaround jumper. And that's not offense, dude. You can't say that the other team's too good on defense when that's your freaking offense. Like, where was the movement off ball? Where was the cutting? Where was the off ball screens, like you mentioned? Where was the cross screens in the post when we played Brogdon or Ayton and Robert Williams together? Those two should have had like a high-low offense going. Where was the creativity on offense? So no, it's one thing if you do those things and your offense still gets stifled by a good defense, but when it's standing around watching and a lot of ISO heavy and handoff heavy offense, I hate the excuse that the other team was a good defense, because when the other team is a good defensive team, and the Clippers may well be one of the better defensive teams in the league, it's even more important that you don't play offense like that. So And you need to get out and run fast breaks. You have to get into your offense before they set up their defense. And we did none of those things in this game. So if that continues to happen and we hear these bullcrap excuses from Chauncey, which I'd love to hear him actually say it, like I don't understand why that's going to be an excuse this year when they said that it was going to look different this year without Dame. Like, come on, man. You're muted.
Obviously, give him time, but at the same time, this is not a good first step. You know, you gotta. The problem is with Chauncey is, and it's something that I didn't expect when he became coach, because he said all the right things. But the problem is with Chauncey is the players under him, it doesn't matter who, the players under him don't know how to freelance. Like, if they're not in a set, everybody stands and watches. Mm-hmm. And I thought at the start of last season, the first 15 games, when they started like 10-4, I thought that was the best they had been under Chauncey of freelancing. Like, a guy would drive, kick, another guy would drive, kick, open three, or maybe a drive and a layup, dump off. Like, but it wasn't necessarily a ton of like off-ball screening. I never felt like. I always felt like his teams off the ball, some guys would make the right cut occasionally. Some guys would, attack closeouts and get defenses caught in rotation and move the ball that way. But it was never a situation where, like, guys are setting back screens out of a specific set. You look at, like, the way Golden State plays, I always reference them, and you look at some of the best offenses in the league, Denver, right? Like, they don't need to be in a set play with everybody in their right spots to go and move. And move, a big part of it is you got to be able to pass and screen away. That's a basic staple of learning the game of basketball that you learn when you're young. It's not something that's advanced, right? You pass, you screen away. That player can either come to the ball for a handoff or they can curl it, right? They can like feel out their defender and read things that way. In transition, drag screens are screens. Basically, you got the big running alongside the ball and he turns and sets a screen. It's just basic stuff that you don't have to be in a set to run. I would love to see somebody outside of the flow of the offense just go and try and set Sharp a back screen. And then if Sharp doesn't use it, shame on him, Like, we got to get guys moving in space in the half court. That is the biggest thing because we got athletes. The problem is we don't have guys that are going to shake guys off the dribble and create one-on-one and do a whole lot of that at a really efficient level. So you don't play that style of basketball. You get them in space, you set them screens, you try and utilize the athleticism of a lot of guys on these teams by designing them lobs, but also when defenses blow up your set, Eric, you got to be able to respond. You got to be able to respond. That's the problem. It's like if our set gets blown up, nobody knows what to do. And that was a theme last year. And that's what it felt like in this game is if we got to have a set, everybody's standing around watching a guy play. You got to know how to play offense in the half court outside of a set play. And that is something that Chauncey hasn't really shown that he can coach because I haven't really seen it consistently ever, no matter who's on the roster. So that's the thing to look for going into the season is can they improve when their sets get shut down? Can they play off each other if they're not in a set? Anybody can go out there and run from point A to point B, right? Like I'm sure I could find, your kid, Eric, if you told him to run from here to there, he could probably do it, right? Running a set is probably, if he listens to you. Running a set should be easy, right? You're explicitly told what to do, but you got to be able to know how to play in freelance in the NBA. It's the NBA. So,
yeah. Well, I do want to make a point about freelancing in a minute, but first I need to read this comment. James Blackburn says, you don't really want Chauncey to call out the team on their first game, though, hence the excuses, especially being so inexperienced. I'd let him off this time for defending these players. No one's saying he needs to call him out. This is his offense, though. Like, he needs to call it his own offense. Like, he's the one who didn't have offensive sets that featured ball movement. So he needs to call it himself for not preparing the team to handle a top-notch defense. But back to the freelance point. So Golden State, Kerr didn't just show up and be like, okay, everyone freelance. And they just started freelancing and it worked great, right? What happened was Kerr had plays and systems designed to do those off-ball screens or to curl Curry off-ball off multiple screens and things like that. So you run those plays, right? And then after a while, once you've ran those plays, then he's like, okay, just go do all the stuff we've been doing. And that, like, by that time, a smart player like Draymond Green or Klay Thompson or whoever, Kevon Looney, they know what is expected of them because they ran the set plays. So then when you freelance, they're doing all the things he wanted them to do in a set offense. They're just then given the freedom to do it. And they're good enough then with it to execute without him having to call a specific screen off ball or whatever out of a play. But you can't have that process, especially with a young team, without first hammering it home in design sets to do that stuff. You can't just say, go out and cut in the right timing and stuff like that. No, it's got to be like, if your defender moves an inch this way, you cut immediately. And like, if you watch that on film and you say, what, look at your defender right here. He moved that inch to the left. You need to go. And you need to keep hammering that stuff home. And this is really crucial with this team to get it set in their ways early on in their careers. I mean, we have a few veterans that we're going to be playing a lot this year, but all the young guys need this hammered home immediately. Otherwise, when we're talking 2 to 3 years down the road with a new coach, it's going to be a lot of standing around, and it's going to be a lot harder to get them to play this way. And so, in my opinion, Chauncey needs to do a much better job of handling how he's running the offense and what he's expecting the players to do on offense instead of just expecting them to be perfect freelancers right now.
Yeah. I mean, and this is just stuff that they got to work on. This is stuff that they got to prove. Like, this team has a lot of work to do, and anybody that tries to tell you otherwise is kidding themselves, you know? So this is the work that they got to put in. This is the work they got to do. This is what they got to get better at. This is what they got to learn how to do. And the thing is when you bring young players into the league, you don't expect them to be able to do it at a super high level, but you expect them to try. You expect them to pass the screen away, like basics like that. You expect them to be cognizant of, and it just feels like this team doesn't even try, doesn't even look for that. And it's like, if that's being preached as a philosophy and they're not trying game one, like, okay, fine, we can sweep it under the rug because it's game one. But we've seen this story before with a different team, and now Chauncey has his guys. It's like, did they just not effectively utilize training camp in preseason? Maybe not. And if so, then fine. They're going to get off to a rough start, which is kind of what I expect. But it comes down to this. Like, this is what they got to, this is what they have to improve. So they got to be able to play off each other. They got to be able to move screen away. Simple stuff. Shout out to Colonel Pancakes, $5 donation. So shout out to Brandon Miller and Hornets fans who had a pretty good first game. Nice to see, even as a Blazer fan, a lot of shade was thrown his way. Brandon Miller was thought of as maybe the most NBA-ready prospect outside of Victor Wembanyama, and he looked NBA-ready tonight, had a good first game, and I think the Hornets are a team that is a little better than people expect. You got Gordon Hayward, LaMelo, as much as I think he shouldn't be in the league, and I don't respect him, Miles Bridges is a solid player, and you got Brandon Miller as well. PJ Washington had a good game. I mean, that's the thing with, like, looking at a team like that is, in comparing them to the Blazers, is they got guys that are starting to grow into their roles. Like a PJ Washington has found himself as an NBA player. He'll knock down threes. He'll chase rebounds. He's gotten better defensively. Like, this team tonight, outside of the veterans, looked like players that didn't really know how to play to their strengths yet. Like, what's Scoot's strengths? Is turning the corner, getting downhill, attacking the rim, finishing, collapsing the defense, and kicking out. The first half, there was basically none of that. And it's his first NBA game, right? Like, you know, I've been the one preaching patience with him. It's just, that's his strength. That's what he was drafted based on, is he'll be able to get into the paint at will and finish, and then and then kick out. But the thing is young players normally have flaws that need to be worked on, and Scoot's, I mean, we can wait to talk about him a little bit, but Scoot has to be able to shoot the three-point ball to be able to turn the corner is what it is. He was able to do it against a bench lineup, which he did in the Suns preseason game, but got to be able to do it against starters. And the problem is Los Angeles is a big physical team. Maybe they're not the most physical team in the league, but you got Kawhi, you got Paul George, you got Zubac, you got Robert Covington. That's 4 of their 5 starters. That's a lot of size. And these young guys haven't seen size like that before.
Well, I think with Scoot, the thing is, we've seen plenty of point guards, including the one he was up against tonight, Russell Westbrook. Jaw had this issue. De'Aaron Fox had this issue. Teams are going to pack the paint against him until he starts proving he can hit the three. And I felt it was a little unfortunate that he had 2 good three-point shots in the first half, and they both were they looked online. So unfortunately they didn't go in. It might have been a little different story if he hits one of those. Maybe they come out a little faster. But those guys all learned how to attack when the defense sags off, and it's something that I've seen Scoot do. So like I know he's capable. For some reason tonight, until garbage time, it felt like he was a little scared to even touch the paint with the ball, and he was playing a little hot potato when he got it. And the thing is, you have to like their first step is usually right at the defender, so it gets them back on the heels, on their heels, and then you can once they're on their heels, maybe blow by him or get him to back down a little bit and then kick out. And so until Scoot learns how to do that properly, or to do it more consistently at least, I think it's going to be a struggle, but I do think he can still play well without shooting the three well. He can still attack and get into the paint and kick out. And we saw him actually finish well at the end of the game. So thankfully maybe he can build on some of that. But I just think you have to get downhill. If you're not going to shoot the three, you got to get downhill, and you have to learn how to do that, and you can't be scared to do it. And he just seemed really rushed tonight, and it resulted in a lot of bad passes and turnovers and near turnovers and weird lob passes, like you said, that made no sense. Yeah, so he's got plenty of time to figure it out, but yeah, I just think he's got to either decide what he wants to do and just work on that now. I don't think he needs to necessarily do both. So like, either decide you're going to attack the paint if they sag off, or decide you're going to shoot the three and just keep doing it until you start hitting it consistently. And I don't even care about results right now. You just have to do one or the other, get good enough at that one thing to where the other thing then becomes the thing that you have to work on and that teams aren't prepared for, because then you can switch up on them. But I think right now it's just important that he at least has one kind of go-to move in those situations and not try to be so overwhelmed like he was tonight.
Yeah, 100%. I think in general, like, awareness this game on both ends of the court was rough. Just to talk about some defense, like, this is something we've talked about for so long, and it's so frustrating, but guys over helping one pass away. How much have we talked about that? Like, there was a stretch where Zubac got an open and one, and I think Paul George got an open three. It was back-to-back plays. I think Paul George three was first, and then Zubac got an open and one. And both times, it was the first time Malcolm Brogdon was guarding Paul George, and Russell Westbrook has the ball in the perimeter against Anthony Simons, who I actually thought had a really good defensive game, and we'll talk about that. And Malcolm Brogdon is just like 10 feet off Paul George, shading over towards Russ, but he's not even going to double. He's just shading towards him. And Russ just kicks the ball to Paul George, who has basically a wide open three. And it's like, why are you standing there? And that's a veteran, right? But the thing is, Brogdon's defense was pretty solid when he came into the league, and it's regressed. He's not a great defensive guard, and I think it's just stuff like that, man. You know, you don't want to see your veterans making that mistake, but the second play was Ayton just shading over towards Russ when he has the ball in the post, and Zubac just cuts into the open space because Ayton's not there because he's shading towards the ball. It's like, why are we shading so heavily towards Russell freaking Westbrook, man? It's Russell Westbrook. We used to call him Russell Westbrook. Now we don't care enough to call him that because he's a like a fifth starter, right? But he had a decent game today, and we made it easy on him because we're shading towards him and giving him open targets to pass the ball to. And
giving him plenty of fast break dunks, like where no one got back on defense as well.
That too. That's another area where the awareness just wasn't there. Like there was multiple times where we did not do a good job cross-matching in transition when maybe we should have because we had to. Like we were giving up so many at the start of this game, so many easy looks in transition. It wasn't even just like throwing the ball down the court and a couple of dunks that Westbrook had. It was guys would get up in transition, drive the paint, and we weren't exactly set, so we overreacted to the ball. And then there's a wide open kick out pass, wide open three. You know, so that's the tough part about sitting here on a post-game show is just how do you really criticize awareness with specific players when it's like the entire team on both ends of the court offensively, like Scoot the first half, had a couple of passes where it's like, what in the world? He threw one directly to Robert Covington. Jeremy Grant drove into traffic a few times in this game and had easy kick-out passes and didn't make them.
We lost the ball in the opening tip.
Yeah. I mean, it's just sloppy. It's just preseason stuff, you know? So it's start of the regular season stuff. I expect that stuff to improve. It's just like, man, what do you even say about that type of stuff? What do you even say about that stuff? It's just, you know, you can't really put a lot of that on Chauncey when it's guys just failing to make reads. Because in the end, when you freelance and you play out of the flow of things and aren't in a set, you have to be able to read the defense. You have to be able to make decisions. You have to be able to know when to cut. You have to be able to make that kick-out pass when you draw the defense. And if you can't do that, you can't really have a functioning offense. The thing is, these are NBA players, though. They should be able to do that at some sort of level. Today, they didn't really show that. I expect it to be better, though.
Yeah, and if you watch the watch party, I mentioned this several times, but it's not necessarily the when they hit shots that are contested, you can live with that. Like Paul George had a really good game, and he hit some shots that I thought were well guarded. And good players are going to do that. Like I will never get mad at that. But it was, especially in the first half, it was all the freaking wide open dunks and then wide open 3-pointers and the offensive rebounds, man. Like you can't have those three things. You can't give up open dunks and open threes, and you can't then, if you get lucky and they miss some of those, then give the ball to them for another possession where they get another wide open three or whatever. So I don't know if that's effort or if they were messing up rotations or what. I'm going to have to go watch the game again to figure some of those plays out. But it's just it was concerning to me just how quick they were getting up and down the court. And we have this young athletic team. I mean, I don't think it's that crazy to say we might have the most athletic or one of the most athletic rotations in the league, right? Like not necessarily basketball functional athleticism yet, maybe, but I think they're really freaking like good athletes on this team. So like the fact that we got boat raced, you know what I mean? Like it makes no sense. And that just seems to me like something is not translating with the way this team is being prepared once again. And until that changes, I'm going to keep blaming the coaching staff because this isn't a case where under Stotts, you know, we had the same roster basically for 3, 4, 5 years in a row, right? And you could say, well, maybe it's the players, the roster is wrong or whatever. Even though I still think it was coaching for a lot of it, but like that's a little bit more understandable that it's the roster. But now Chauncey's basically had 3 different teams, and when you're not getting athletic players to make athletic moves and at least get back on defense, it becomes a problem, man. I don't understand how this coaching staff is watching games like this and just being like, oh, well, the defense was really good for the Clippers, so it's hard to score. Like, no crap, dude. Like, didn't you know that for this entire offseason while you were preparing for the first game of the season? Or how about during preseason when you chose to rest your players and not play them much, and then you had 9 days off in between your last game and this one, you didn't even play any of your rotation guys, really. I don't understand some of the decision making by the coaching staff here. It's kind of perplexing, and I wasn't even like we should have lost this game. We were 9-point underdogs. Like there's not many scenarios where I thought we would actually win in this game, but just to look that slow and stuff when you should have a fast-paced team, and you were preaching how this is going to be a fast, fun team, up-tempo team, exciting team, and we didn't really see a ton of that. That's where my frustration lies. Like, and yeah, I'm trying not to get negative about one game, but like it's like I did not want it to look that slow and that disinteresting,
Yeah, 100%. And I do think you could make the case we have the most athletic team in the league, but in order to utilize athleticism, you got to play in space. You got to play in space, and that's getting out and running, and that's also getting players moving, getting their defender off them with screens and all the half-court stuff that we talked about. And the problem is when you're stagnant and stuck in the half-court, you're not playing in space because the defense is set. They're going to load up on everything. It's going to be tough. There was a good example of a play, though, where we were in space and could have utilized athleticism. I'm talking about Jeremy Grant having Shaedon Sharpe open on a lob underneath on a fast break, and instead he tries to throw it to Scoot and throws it horribly behind him and out of bounds. I mean, that's the thing. You can say, like, young players for a lot of it, but that's not a young player. That's Jeremy Grant, man. That's Jeremy Grant, and he has Shaedon Sharpe, who he played with last year, who's maybe the bounciest dude in the league, with a lob right in front of him, right in his vision, and for some reason he tries to pass to the point guard behind him. Didn't make any sense, and that's where it comes down to reads, because that's the thing, is that sort of play is the type of play we should be scoring 100% of the time when you got that sort of space and you're able to get Sharp behind the defense for a lob, and it should be a lob 100% of the time. There was a couple of times where we had a couple of lobs in this game. The most notable one was Robert Williams had a dunk where Ant threw a lob to him, really good pass. And I said at the time, like, man, I thought that pass was high, but Williams easily got that, and it was like, Nurk, I love Nurk, but is Nurk getting the pass that Williams dunked that ball on? Probably not. Maybe Eubanks would have got it, but Robert Williams got up, threw it down, and he was behind the defense. And that's what it has to be, is you draw defenders to you, or you lift the bottom of the defense, and you're able to get a player like that behind you, always throw the lob. Because worst case scenario is maybe you throw it a little too high, and it goes out of bounds, and you're able to go back and set your defense, right? Yeah. But you got a chance at a really good shot, and you're probably, if you can competently pass the ball with all the athletes we have, it's not like you have to throw perfect lobs to Shaedon Sharpe. You can throw it behind him, and he'll tomahawk it. So you're going to score on the majority of those plays. You just got to look for them. So that was a good example of just not executing for a guy that should in Jeremy Grant. He's not the greatest passer, but man, you got Shaedon freaking Sharpe behind the defense. Just throw it around the rim. He knows how to throw it around the rim when he's shooting the ball. So just throw it around the rim. Let him go get it.
One of my biggest pet peeves in basketball is players who predetermine what they're going to do when they get the ball and don't let whatever happens on the court play out, right? Or read the defense or whatever. And this mostly manifests in shooting when you get the ball, like just refusing to pass it. We saw that several times with Jeremy tonight. Dribble, dribble, dribble. The shot's not there, Jeremy, and he still tries to force it up anyway.
Yeah.
He did a little bit better job in the second half of not forcing it. But then same thing happened with DeAndre Ayton. First play of the second half. We run a play for him to get post position. He gets it. It's the same play we used to run for Nurk at the beginning of games. And it just wasn't there. He gets pushed out almost to the free throw line, and he still tries to shoot anyway and gets blocked. It's just like these guys are getting the ball, and it's like, I don't know, I have to shoot it no matter what happens, no matter how the defense plays me. They could get quadruple teamed and be under the basket or something, and they're still going to try to throw it up somehow. Like, it makes no sense to me. Like, it just, like, Jeremy on that fast break, it seemed like he was gonna pass the Scoot like that whole time, and like that's just what his read was, and he wasn't able to like notice anything else because he just had the blinders on. So yeah, like I don't know, those kind of players are gonna frustrate me if we're trying to get like a free flowing offense, and yeah, it's just it stands out so much, man, because they're not even like good at doing that. Both Ayton and Jeremy are much better when they go quick and get their shot up fast. If they have to go dribble and create for several seconds, it just doesn't turn out well usually. And I don't understand why we're like just sitting there watching them do that so often in these games.
Yeah, 100%. You want to get into players right now and like talk about something positive? Okay, so I gotta set up our let me copy yours. I gotta set up our webcams in this scene, but these are the player cards we're doing for this year. They're not done yet. We got Krish on the graphics, but this is what we're rolling with. As I said, gotta set up the cameras. So let me get copy paste Eric's in there, and we'll get mine in there. But this is what we got. We're still rolling with the fire, just just a little different look here. So we'll have these coded at some point to have stats on the left. Krish he was unfortunately unable to help us tonight. Maybe he's glad about that because this game was pretty rough. But yeah, this is what we got. So as I said with Scoot, man. Actually, you want to start with the positive? You want to start with Ant?
No, this is Scoot.
Let's start with Scoot. Okay, yeah. And we'll save the positive. So Scoot tonight, final box score was 11 points, 4 assists, 4 turnovers, 5 for 11 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. Stat line doesn't look that bad, but all his damage came when this game was pretty much over and against second unit. Against the starters, didn't look good. He played 36 minutes in this game, Eric. 36 minutes for Scoot. By far the most, which Scoot was struggling. Chauncey could have easily played Malcolm Brogdon, who had 20 points, 8 for 16 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3. Like, Brogdon had a good game and kind of got us back into this game. He could have played Brogdon those 36 minutes if he really, really wanted to. But he played Scoot 36 minutes. I found that interesting. Shows that maybe he is willing to prioritize development over winning, you know, because I think this team looked a lot better when Brogdon was in the game, and they were only a -5 in the 23 minutes that Brogdon played.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. It would have been interesting to see if we didn't have that last almost 5 minutes of garbage time, what people's minutes would have been. So I don't know about that, but I thought Scoot I think he got in this game and didn't realize how hard it was going to be, especially against a team like the Clippers. I don't know. I don't think he did anything that's like worrisome. Like, I'm not like long-term worried about Scoot at all. I think this is exactly what he needs. And it's always going to come down to work ethic and just how you develop your game and how you improve weaknesses. So this season, to me, is finding out what those weaknesses are and what you need to improve moving forward. And hopefully you start to see that improvement during the season. But it could be a long time before you actually see him look like the star he could be, and that's fine. I do want to see some flashes, so glad we got a couple of moments at the end. I was surprised to see Scoot. I know he said he wasn't going to be nervous, but I was surprised at how nervous he was in the first half, or how nervous he looked at least.
Yeah.
And how scared he looked out there. But then I was also surprised at, I don't know, I don't think that he thought it was going to be like this. I think he thought he was going to come in and maybe play well right away. Summer League, right? He comes in, hits all his shots and is going crazy and stuff like that. I think he thought it was going to go a little more like that. And when you're a confident person, that's how you should be. But I just want to see how he responds, because a lot of good young players struggle early on in their careers. It's normal. It's nothing to be scared of. But it's how you build on that and how you learn from it. And we saw Sharp last year, look at times like the game was just moving way too fast for him, and he wasn't gonna pick up concepts anytime soon. And then towards the end of the season, we saw him say some things in interviews after games and do some things on the court that were whoa, this guy's learning, and his processing speed for learning is a lot better than I thought. So I just hope that that's the case with Scoot, because it a lot of elite players, that processing speed is there. You fail a few times and then you don't make that mistake very often moving forward. So I just want to. I'm hoping Scoot does that as early as next game, where it just looks a little different. He looks a lot more comfortable out there.
Yeah, and some players play really good as a rookie. Some players struggle. Dame was really good as a 22-year-old rookie, but if he came into the league after his freshman year in college, his first game probably would have been terrible. You know what I mean? That's the thing, and that's why I was preaching patience with Scoot all off season. Everybody's talking him up like he can replace Dame, and he's the next great superstar point guard. He can definitely become that, but he's going to have to become that. He's going to have to work to get there. It's going to be a process, man. He's a 19-year-old rookie, and I felt like, having hype over the 3rd overall draft pick is completely fine, man. It's Scoot Henderson. He's been a pretty big name despite not being in the NBA for a couple years now. Absolutely get hyped about having him. But also, don't lose sight of the fact that he's 19 years old, and I think the key for him really opening up his game is he needs to become a more consistent shooter. It's really that simple. It's not like he's not quick. It's not like he can't pass the ball. It's not like he's not athletic. His finishing could use a little bit of work in different circumstances, especially if he's jumping off too. But Dame wasn't the greatest finisher coming into the league. He's improved his finishing a ton. Scoot will improve his finishing. The thing is today is what I noticed is defenders are just backing up when he has the ball. If he starts trying to drive, defenders are just backing up. And it's really hard to beat somebody off the dribble and get into the paint and draw other defenders when the main guy guarding you can't get past him because he's just backing up when you're dribbling. He's just backing up when you're trying to break him down. Scoot should be running a lot of pick and roll and being able to kind of counter that by taking it at pick and rolls. But when you got guys that can go under screens, it's harder to turn the corner on pick and rolls. And when you got bigs that drop, they're going to clog the paint up more. If we played teams and drop the last 10 years, it was basically that's ridiculous. Have fun having Damian Lillard drop 40 points on your head, right? Now teams can run drop. Scoot Henderson is the type of guy you run drop against and you go under screens against, unfortunately. Now, I think he can develop his shot, but he has to become a consistent enough shooter where defenders respect it and they're worried about him shooting an open three, so they're playing leaning forward a little bit more. because then they're easier to beat off the dribble. And then if defenders back up like they were doing tonight, Scoot can have a game where hopefully he's 4 for 8, 4 for 9, even I'll take 4 for 10 from 3, right? And at that point, if you're able to consistently hit shots in the NBA, 36, 37%, guys aren't just going to let you shoot wide open jumpers. And then turning the corner and getting to the rim and finishing for him is going to be a lot easier. And turning the corner, beating the main guy, and therefore drawing a secondary defender is going to make it easier for him to get into the paint and then spray it out to shooters, spray it, throw lobs, dump off passes. Like, that is the key for him, is becoming a consistent shooter. It opens up a lot of his other strengths. And he's a good enough prospect at a number of things that I could see him still being a really good NBA player, even if he doesn't become a solid NBA three-point shooter. But that is simply the key for his game. It's not like he's a guy that came into the league knocking down threes that has questions with other stuff, but can at least just play off the ball and stand in the corner and then hit a three when the ball comes to him. This is why he's a star caliber prospect, is because he doesn't have the three ball, but he has the stuff that's harder to teach: the athleticism, the vision, the the body, the first step, right? The mentality, it seems like, the attitude. He has a lot of things that are hard to teach. You can teach a guy how to shoot. I think he will become a solid NBA three-point shooter and open up a bunch of other stuff. Mm-hmm. But until then, it's going to be a little bit rough when there's games like tonight where guys just back up on him and he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, that's why I want a little bit more focus on the creation part. It's like, because he should be like an 8 assist guy this season at some point, right? Like, per game. Mm-hmm. And I think you mentioned it. Like, I think even if he doesn't shoot well, I think he can still do that. I think he can still dribble into the defense and kick out to shooters, and that needs to be our offense if we're going to stand around. Because it's going to be really hard if there's no movement or off-ball action to consistently get into the paint, even if he is hitting a three, because the paint's going to be loaded up for him. So I want him to go inside more and just focus on kicking out, but not necessarily some of the sloppiness that he had, but like have some plays where you have a designed a designed down screen for someone popping up that he can kick out to or something, or like a backdoor screen, or that for him to lob to someone, and maybe that'll get him going a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. And man, it's a stark difference in terms of three-point shooting, obviously, from the guy that was here before. A lot of people say, move on if I ever mention his name, so fine, I won't mention his name. But, I mean, that's the thing with Dame, is he comes off a screen and the guy guarding the screener is just leaning forward on his toes, and Dame just has to look at the rim, and that guy's, like, jumping sometimes. And then it's just so easy to drive. And that's where, if Scoot is able to open up as much space with hesitations, coming off screens, getting that defender guarding the big biting forward, like, he'll be a star. I have no doubt about that. So I don't know form-wise how much he needs to fix it. Like, maybe he just needs more reps, but I do think there's a couple things that he could definitely fix with his shooting form. This offseason, I would send him to the best shooting coach out there. I don't know who that is, but send him to the best shooting coach out there. Maybe tweak his form a little bit if there's things that need to be tweaked, and work with him on it. I also think that he needs to get a little better using his body in the lane, like throwing his weight into defenders because he's strong. I just think he hasn't embraced that yet, which young players don't. I mean, look at Anthony Simons his rookie year, man. Look at Anthony Simons' rookie year. He didn't create contact. He didn't drive sharply. He drove away from contact. He shot away from contact.
He didn't play his rookie year.
Yeah, rookie year, sophomore year, even his third year in the league. The past 2 years since he's become a starting caliber player, Ant's really improved with that. So Scoot will improve with that. There's just all the stuff he has to improve on. And that's why just have patience. People are coming into our live chat wow, is Scoot not going to score game one? Is he going to go to the G League soon? Just have patience with Scoot. I think he'll get better as the year goes on. it'll be interesting to see what the 3-point percentage is. Is he like a 27% 3-point shooter from on the season, or is he a 33% 3-point shooter? Neither is good, but at least one is closer to what he needs to be. If he's 27%, like, man, there's a lot of work to be done. Because I think the goal for him, he needs, maybe need isn't the right word, but becoming a 36% 3-point shooter on an easier shot diet than somebody like Dame or Ant, obviously, but just becoming that caliber of 3-point shooter, I think is the benchmark for him opening up other parts of his game. So,
yeah, absolutely. And just for the record, Josh shot 33.5 his rookie year, 30.3 his second year, and he was actually only 30.7 last year. His good year was 34.4%. So it doesn't even have to be like that good.
Yeah, true. I think the one interesting contrast with them is I think Ja's a little bit more of a functional athlete than Scoot, at least as a leaper. Like when he gets into the paint and plants off 2, plants off 1, doesn't even matter how he's planting off 2, like he just gets up. Scoot can get up off 1. He struggles to get up as much off 2. And he needs a little bit of a runway off 1 to get up, which most of the time when you're jumping off 1, you're already running. But that's the thing, is Ja is able to be vertically explosive around the rim no matter what his footwork is and how he drives. And hopefully that's something that Scoot can develop, but I'm not sure you can really develop that. He's definitely a really good athlete at the point guard spot. It's just a little bit different with Ja. That's why Ja is so special. So Scoot has to learn like little tricks to be able to throw his weight into defenders, because he's usually the smallest or one of the smallest guys on the court going up with a bunch of giants, and you can't just go straight up in the NBA. You got to be able to jump into the chest of a shot blocker. You got to be able to create windows to shoot the ball around the rim. That's something that Dame got really good at, even though he's able to have easier finishes because of his shooting ability, opening up drives for him. He's really good at throwing his body into guys and changing up his pace and being creative around the rim. And Scoot has some element of that. Like that reverse lay-in he had today is a really hard shot to guard, and it's creative. I just think once he starts using his body more, he'll be able to just like drive at guys and be able to make things work. So let's move on and talk about Anthony Simons, because he didn't have a big second half, but in the first half, he showed me everything that I was hoping to see out of him. And in this game, 6 for 14 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, 4 assists. No turnovers, though, Eric, in a game where we were really sloppy. Also, defensively, I thought he was really, really good in the first half. And I was really paying attention to him in the first half. Like, he seemed to want to guard Kawhi at times in this game, and he was like trying to get up into the ball, trying to be physical, but also he wasn't being too physical and fouling a bunch. And there was multiple times where guys drove at him, and I've talked about this with Ant. If you've watched me for a while, you might remember this. Like, Ant has had a problem where if a guy drives to one side of his body, that foot, he drops too much and opens the door. And basically opens a driving lane because he drops instead of slides.
Sharp does it too.
In this game, Simons had multiple times where he just like slid with the dude and didn't open up that lead hip and was able to cut off drives. He did it a couple of times with Russell Westbrook. He did it a couple times with Kawhi Leonard. There was a few times he was switched out onto Kawhi Leonard, and I don't think Kawhi scored once on him. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's a play I'm forgetting, but Ant looked like a solid defensive player at least. And I think the narrative about him has, the bad defender label that he says he wants to get off his name. I think that's a little unfair based on last year. Like, I think he was better defensively last year than people expect. He got better getting through screens. But when defending on the ball, he did not do as good of a job as I felt like he could have of keeping guys in front of him. Tonight, I thought when he was defending on the ball, he did a better job than I ever saw him do last year, just closing off driving lanes, not opening up the door. And if he can become a solid NBA defender, man, then he's a really good player. So the defense I was impressed with from him.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was hoping for this year is someone like Ant to step up on defense so that the coaches can do a more traditional defense in terms of matchups. So you don't have Jeremy Grant. Like we didn't really. I mean, obviously it's a little bit different team than a ball dominant team like say Oklahoma City Thunder with SGA. Like that'll be interesting to see how we guard them. But I was happy that Jeremy wasn't like the main on ball defender tonight, and that I just want players like Anthony to like just let them try to do that until they prove they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And you might be surprised at how well they do it or how well the rest of your defense is responding to Anthony being the guy getting beat, even if he gets beat, versus Jeremy being the guy getting beat and Anthony having to cover the rim or whatever. Matisse got caught a few times in the first half having to defend the rim, but I thought the Blazers, it's one thing they did well on defense tonight is not having as many times as they did last year with the smaller guys in the paint trying to guard bigger guys. The Clippers are a weird team because Zubac, I mean, he had a good game, 20 points, but he's not like a dominant like go-to scorer in the paint. So I think I like that if we can get it to where we have a guard like Anthony Simons who is like even average at guarding the point of attack. And I think that can open up Chauncey to play a little bit different schemes and hopefully because Chauncey seems to want to do like a lot of traditional stuff like he did in Detroit when they won a championship, you know? Yeah. And I think you can only do that if you have someone like Anthony step up at one of the two guard positions.
Yeah, 100%. The defensive side of the ball, I think, is key for him to become a star. Like, I think he can maybe do it just with offense, but if he's able to become a good defensive player, I mean, that just adds value to a team. That makes the team better. If you got a guard that can score the ball the way he can, that can shoot the ball the way he can, but also they're not somebody you can just attack like that defensively, because that's always been our scoring guards. Have been guys you can just attack and go at. You know, Dame and CJ and Ant in the past. Hopefully Ant in the future is more so the defender we saw tonight, man, because it was good. And then offensively, like, he was cooking in the first half, and he had to shoot some tough shots. Like, I don't think we used him off the ball as well as we could have. Like, run him off screens a little bit more. I would like to see, you know, pin downs, double screens, stuff like that. Just get him without his defender on him and give him a gap, because his drives today were really impressive to me.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, we had talked about how Ant, when he has a defender at him that he's attacking, he would try and like drive around them and he'd angle away from the rim and then like shoot some little like hook shot that's like where he's jumping kind of away from the rim and it's 5, 6, 7 feet away from the basket. And that's fine when that's like what's there. You know, I'm not saying he should never do that. But there was opportunities where he could just like drive at guys and like get by them downhill, and he would shy away from contact. Today, there was a few different drives, and I mentioned them on the watch party, man. There's a few different drives he had where he drove around somebody, but like he was basically blasting his shoulder through the defender's shoulder, and he was like taking as much of an angle downhill towards the rim as he could to get around the defender. And that's what a lot of stars do. And sometimes they'll take an angle so direct, they'll actually pick up fouls and get to the free throw line because of it, because, you know, it looks like a blocking foul where the guy has to slide with them or their arms get tangled, right? Prime James Harden is a perfect example of that, how he just drive like basically just right downhill past guys. So I think the angles Simons was taking on his drives today were good, because I think that's a key for him to becoming a star-level scorer, is being able to finish at the rim, utilize his athleticism a little bit more. He had a nice big dunk today, but then also getting to the free throw line more. That's what star scorers do, and just the way he was driving today I thought was really impressive and more of what I want to see, because the shooting will be there. Had a couple really nice mid-range shots. That'll be there. It's just, can he get to the rim and create consistently for himself? And I thought, I think a big part of that is the angles he takes on his drives, and those were good today.
Yeah, I agree. And then the next step to that is knowing when the contact is going to occur and protecting the ball from getting knocked away or uh, getting and ones instead of just to the line for two. And so you see the progression though, like that's good. Like you see him go from not being able to do that in his third year to his fourth year, starting to take over and become a guy who could run an offense. And then last year, you see him start to drive a little bit more, but not maybe get to the foul line as much as you like. And then, so this year, that's the next step and that's one thing that CJ could never really master. He didn't get to the free throw line enough to, if you want to be like the most efficient version of yourself as a scorer. So CJ always had like really good shooting splits, but he just didn't have a high like true shooting percentage because his free throw attempts were low. So I think for Anthony, that's like the next step, along with of course playmaking as well, like for others. Which I thought he had some nice passes tonight. I don't know how many assists did he finish with?
4.
4 assists.
He only played 27 minutes, so if he plays his full diet of minutes, if there's no garbage time, it's probably 5 or 6.
Yeah, and it might be a little hard to judge like per game stuff with assists because you got Brogdon handling the ball a lot. You got Scoot obviously is going to handle the ball some. So yeah, I don't know if he needs to average like 6 or 7 assists.
Yeah. It's something you have to analyze based on like is he making the right read or not? What I talked about earlier. Yeah.
And I thought he made for the most part some nice reads. I felt like there was 1 3 in the first half where he missed pretty badly. It was like a sidestep kind of backwards 3. I thought he had a lane to drive. But other than that, it's not like I said about Jeremy and DeAndre. Like I felt like Anthony most of the time when he attacked, he was getting shots that I'm comfortable with him taking. And I thought he did have some nice kickouts and some nice reads. You'd love to see that lob pass. Hopefully that can become part of his arsenal moving forward. So yeah, I really think Anthony was fine this game. Once again, tough defensive matchup. They started focusing all their attention on him when he got hot in the first half and really took him out of the game in the second half. So hopefully some other players step up next time. But a lot of positive things, I think, from Anthony, even though because of the lower minutes, his overall stats don't like jump out at you or anything.
Yeah, and that's why it's driven me crazy when people act like Ant is a finished product. He's gotten better every year, and he's shown progress in what he needs to work on. Like, he's shown progress defensively, and it's like going into this game, I would have said like the two things that he showed in this game were the two things that he needed to show some incremental improvement on. If you're just looking at some of the nuances with the game, it's defending on the ball, not opening up as much, and cutting off his drive sharper and getting downhill because of it. And he showcased both of them. Like, I was excited, man. And that's what this season is about, is these young players showing improvement in areas like that in the way that Anthony Simons has the past couple of years. And that's why he's not a finished product. He's still young. He's 24 now. But he seems to know what he needs to work on, and he works on it. Like, you don't just make a change willy-nilly. You don't. You got to work on this stuff, man. Or at least have the focus and the attention, right? Like CJ in the past had a couple of quotes where he was acting like he was a good defensive player, and it's like, man, you really don't realize that you struggle defensively. And Ant's just sitting here like, yeah, I want to put the bad defender label out of my name. He's not sitting here saying like, oh yeah, I'm a good defender. Like, I'm not that bad of a defender. Look at the tape or any of that, because that's almost an excuse in a way. He's sitting here saying, I want to put the bad defender label on my name. And he comes out here and shows improvement with footwork on defense. And footwork is a big part of both sides of the ball. So I freaking love it, man. I think he's going to have a huge year. I think he's going to be great. I think there's a couple of things that you could point to in this game that he needs to do better, such as protecting the ball when he's going up and then that one tough three-point shot. But I'll say this, all the best scorers in the league usually at least once a game will take a shot where it's like, what is that shot? That's a bad
Right.
shot.
Yeah.
Because to be a lethal scorer, you have to read things like, if I get any sliver of space, I'm pulling. If I get any sliver of space, I'm driving. Right? And sometimes you overestimate the space you have, and that sliver of space you thought you had that you can score through, that you can hit shots through, isn't there, and it's a really bad shot because of it. Right? It's impossible to have that sort of aggressive mindset that makes these guys lethal scorers without ever taking bad shots. So that's the thing that I said with Dame, and that's the thing that I'll say with Ant. Like, a shot like that, if it happens, once, maybe twice a game, if they shoot 15 to 20 shots, it's like, well, yeah, that's not a good shot, but also that comes with the mentality, and that's what I always said with Dame. Now, if half his shots are bad shots, then it's like, okay, you're being way too aggressive, right? But that's the thing, is there's...
Like Jeremy.
Yeah, like... When you're that good of a scorer and you have a lethal scorer mindset, like, you'll get a couple of bad shots and you kind of just got to live with it, because that sort of aggressiveness is what makes them such great scorers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, to your point about improving each year too, that's another thing that, like, he learned from Dame, when, like, Dame would always, or I'm pretty sure everyone agrees, right? Dame pretty much got better every year at something. Like, might be a little thing, but, like, he was always slightly better in some area. So he obviously puts in the work in the off season. That's all you want from Anthony, is to keep showing that progression.
Yeah, 1,000%. The other player card we have, we'll talk about other players that we don't have cards for, but the other player card we have is one DeAndre dominating Ayton. So he gets some foul trouble today, which I thought was interesting. 5 personal fouls in 23 minutes. He's 2 for 4 from the field. He did have 12 rebounds. I thought he gave up a few too many offensive rebounds. You can't just look at rebounding in terms of rebounding numbers, but 12 rebounds and 3 offensive is good. Zubac gets 5, and I think at least 4 were against Ayton. So a little bit of work to be done on the offensive glass, but at least he's kind of getting it back on the a little bit work to do on the defensive glass, but at least he's getting it back on the offensive end of the ball. The fouls, though, man. Like, he was kind of non-existent offensively in this game. We can talk about that, but also the fouls. I don't remember a couple of his fouls, but when you give up a bunch of dribble penetration, this is what we said with Nurkic, it makes it really hard for your bigs not to get in foul trouble when they have to protect the rim against a bunch of drives.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Someone was saying something about DeAndre Ayton's post-game press conference. I want to see if it's up yet, because this is something that I know you are looking very closely at, and that's also something that I want to keep an eye on, and that's just his attitude after games like this. And so, like, I don't really think he did anything bad in this game. So, like, I don't really have anything, like, negative to say about him. I mean, the foul trouble was unfortunate. Some of the lack of rebounding at times on the defensive end is concerning, but we knew that, he did have lapses where he didn't box out and stuff like that. My question is always going to be, how will he respond to a night like tonight, where he only scores 4 points? He comes in saying he's dominating and all this kind of stuff, but you only get a few shots. Don't really get a ton of looks or plays ran for you outside of a couple. So how is he feeling about that? Is he feeling like he should have played better, or is he blaming others for his performance tonight for not, involving him in the offense, or not enough plays called for him by the coaching staff? I'm really curious to see how he handled that. So let's see if
Yeah, let me know if it's up. I can always play it.
I know the Billups one is up.
Yeah, we'll listen to Billups kind of at the end of the stream.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me go to the Blazers channel. Billups is up. No other ones are up. Billups is 8 minutes long. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, Oh God. Okay, I need to get off Twitter. I got on YouTube and then I got on Twitter. I see Gabe hating on Aiden. Switched up real quick, real quick. He'll be fine. Like, is he gonna be a star caliber big? Probably not. Is he gonna be worth the $32 million a year? Probably not. Like, he's overpaid, But at this point, like, whatever. I don't think it really holds the Blazers back from anything. I don't think it really matters that much. I'm willing to look past it. Whatever. The problem is he has to. I don't know if he is worse than he was last year. He's probably an immovable contract, and then if you want to move on, it just becomes an interesting scenario, right? But like, I'm not gonna look that far ahead in one game. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and overreact to him. Game 2, he might drop 20 and 12 and be fine. And obviously that's what I'm rooting for. Just got to stay on the court. And also, when the offense is as disconjointed as it is, like, maybe we should give him more touches in the low post. We did give him one at halftime, though, and he just turned and shot it right into Zubac's hand, like, didn't read the court. So I'm interested to see how he responds to this type of game. And if he has more of this type of game in a game that we lose, where he shoots 4 shots in 23 minutes, what is his attitude? Mm-hmm. He had 3 steals and a block. Like, defensively, I thought he was pretty good. There was a couple of layups that were made against him where he played good defense, and it was just a better offensive play. So I don't even think he had a bad game. He just was kind of non-existent for whatever reason on the offensive end, and the foul trouble was rough.
And games like this are exactly what I've been trying to say for several years with Nurkic, or as Charles Barkley says, Nurkic. But, like, outside of Embiid and Jokic, almost every center has games like this where it doesn't seem like they ever get going, and it's not an attitude problem all the time. Like, that's not necessarily automatically the case whenever someone has a bad game. And I know there's a couple of Suns fans at least watching this right now too. Like, next time Nurkic has like 4 points and 8 rebounds or something, it doesn't mean he's pouting and not having fun anymore, and he's like, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. So it could be true that Ayton doesn't have a high motor, like NB213 says in chat. But like, almost every center has games like this. And that's why I said it's more important to me at how he responds or like thinks his game went. And hopefully he didn't blame anyone else or anything. Because I feel like the last couple of years with Ayton, it's one of the reasons why I don't like trading for players like him usually that have as big of a contract. Because, like, it's like the Cam Reddish thing, right? It's like, oh, it's just because coach won't play me, or like coach isn't running plays for me, or like I'm stuck on the bench. It's like, well, okay. DeAndre can maybe say that because he only played for one coach so far in his career up until now. But like, Reddish had like 2 opportunities where that both happened in both situations. Like, the coach just unfairly not played you and stuff. So like, at some point, like, I just want Ayton to take some responsibility and say, like, I got to be better out there, and like I just didn't do enough tonight, and I hope that's his mindset moving forward, and not like, oh, I didn't have a good game because I didn't have enough plays called for me or whatever, So that's my biggest concern with him, and I hope that's not the case. And it'll be interesting to see exactly what he said.
Yeah. Can you handle adversity? You can't win in the league if you can't handle adversity. And maybe he could handle it before when they made it on their finals run, but if he's on a worse team, like, how do you expect the dude to grow if he's mentally defeated at a sign of struggle, So that's the thing is, I'm not saying he's this or he's that. I'm just saying, like, this is the type of situation where it's going to be interesting to see how he responds, and, you know, it's going to show his mentality.
Yeah.
And his mentality matters. And his mentality is fully under his control, and it's not up to me to decide what his mentality is, so don't shoot the messenger if his mentality isn't right, is what I'll say. So, yeah, I mean, he's an 18-10 big, in my opinion. That's what he averaged last year for the Suns. He's not more than that. Like, I don't expect the Blazers to magically get more out of him, because, Eric, how many times have we heard the Blazers can fix this guy, the Blazers can fix that guy, the Blazers can get more out of this dude? Like, he just needed the right situation. What'd you say?
Wasn't that Dame that could fix these guys?
Yeah, it was Dame, but, like, people saying Portland, and people said this about Ayton, like, Portland can fix him, even though it's like his struggles are more due to just himself. Like, in Phoenix, it was as much due to him as it was due to any other circumstance around him. And that's the thing, is, like, he's the most high caliber player we've done this with, but, like, there's been so many guys. I mean, just remember Cam Reddish, where people were legitimately getting mad at me for saying Cam Reddish just isn't a good NBA player. He's just simply not good. Like, he can maybe be a fringe rotation guy. Like, he played for the Lakers on opening night, and I think made a shot or two, but on a game in, game out basis, he's not really going to contribute to you winning games at the highest level in the league. Like, he's not that type of NBA player. And people were getting mad at me. And the thing was, it was, oh, well, he just needs the right situation, right? He needs the right opportunity. Like, he's shown flashes. He just needs somebody that can get it consistent. Well, the problem is, the only reason that Cam Reddish only showed flashes was because he was only capable of showing flashes. He wasn't capable of doing it consistently. A lot of NBA players are like that, where they're really freaking talented, but they can't do it on a game in, game out basis. So they're not, you know, a top 100 or top 200 player in the world. And the problem is there's a habit of, like, tricking ourselves where, oh, well, Portland's different. Like, we're different here. Our situation is unique. Like, we can give them more of a role. In the past it was, we have a better system. We have a better coaching staff. We have Dame. We have this. We have that. And just convincing ourselves that, like, Portland is the cure for players that had a lot of excitement coming into the league that haven't panned out. But I've seen so many times where that's not true. That's not true, because a lot of these guys they're not that level of player, or some of them, it's about their mentality, and ending up in Portland isn't the type of, it's not like Miami. It's not like we have heat culture, all that. It's not like we have a championship level locker room. It's not like we have that sort of culture established here. Like, right now, we don't even really have a culture. Like, we have a brand new team, you know? So that's the problem, is we convince ourselves that Portland is the place that can fix them and get this extra ability out of them. And I've asked this before, when was the last time that happened? It's more likely that Ayton is going to continue being DeAndre Ayton.
Well, the last time was Mario Hezonja, obviously.
Yeah, we definitely got it out of him. You know what I mean? Like,
we fixed him, yeah.
Yeah, we fixed him.
Lead.
Remember Stauskas when he had 24 on opening night? It's like, oh, see, he just needed to end up in Portland. He was a lottery pick for a reason. Well, guess who took him in the lottery? The Kings did. Guess what the Kings do? They draft guys who end up being busts. Well, lately they've kind of fixed that. So good for them. But, you know what I mean?
We should have signed Jimmer Fredette back in the day.
You know, and then Cam Reddish. And it's like, man, I've just seen this so many times. Let's just stop doing it. Like, let's not expect Ayton to take a jump to stardom because he's in a Blazer uniform. Like, I expect DeAndre Ayton to be DeAndre Ayton. Yeah. What DeAndre Ayton is a good NBA player that has some flaws, which is fine. It comes down to his mentality. Like, if he's able to mentally handle things the right way and be the level of producer he was in Phoenix, like, fine. He's probably a little overpaid on that, but fine.
Yeah.
But that's what it comes down to.
I thought he had some nice moments in this game. A couple good reads on lob passes that he was able to tip or steal. One really good help block. I forgot who he blocked, but he pinned someone on the glass and got the rebound there. Did have his moments where he got some rebounds in this game as well. I thought his bucket in the first half was really a really nice move where you go at the defender and then stop and let him go by you a little bit, create some space, and go up strong. I think there's some good things to build on, but that's never really been the problem with Aiden. Like, there's always been the talent there, and it's fine. I just hope that he sees, like, wow, I did some nice things out there, and not focus on just only scoring 4 points, and that's that's what I'm worried about. I hope that's wrong, and I hope he's turns over a new leaf and isn't like that. And I don't know. I'm willing to give him a chance to prove that he's not like that anymore, and hopefully that comes true.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Suns fans are gonna dunk on him anytime he doesn't do anything, even if he didn't play a bad game and just ended up in foul trouble and didn't get a lot of shots. They're gonna be there on Twitter. The same people that loved this dude 3 months ago and were ready to give him another chance are gonna be the people that are ranting about him, tonight.
Well, like, a lot of those same people are just going to wait for Nurkic to have a bad game, and they're going to do the same thing to him. So
yeah, Blazer fans are going to do that to Nurkic, and it drives me crazy. Suns fans are going to do it to Ayton.
Did you see the Suns are losing a second-round pick for tampering for Drew Eubanks?
Yeah, that's funny. Would they have traded a second for him? Probably not. Maybe we should have traded him for a second to them at the deadline last year when we sold. Gabe, who's a Suns fan, says, or Von Sanity in chat says, Tori, you didn't have to act like a spurned ex about Phoenix. Man, all last season I heard, like, Monty's not giving him enough touches. Monty hates him. Like, Ayton obviously feels some type of way about Phoenix, where that situation upset him. Maybe it was his discourse with Monty. Like, maybe it was he wanted more touches, and maybe he shouldn't feel that type of way. But, like, who cares? Who cares that he didn't want to talk about Phoenix? Like, I don't understand the taking that personally at all. I don't get that.
Well, and to be fair, Nurk thanked all the fans in Portland and didn't say anything bad about Portland. They all still hate him.
Yeah. Yeah, like, that's the Nurk thing is, the Nurk hate is more undeserved from Blazer fans than Suns fans hate for Ayton. Like, I'm not saying that Suns fans should like the guy, but, man, I mean, you guys are probably going to have a lot of times where you're able to say, oh, look at this, he scored 4 points, like, why are you worrying about the Portland Trailblazers when you got a big three, and you should be worried about, like, man, this team could win the freaking championship. Why are you so caught up on DeAndre Ayton? You shouldn't be. You're contenders. That's the thing, is leave Portland fans who, like, we're struggling with a team that is looking at a rebuilding year. Leave us to worry about what our former players are doing. Y'all should just be focused on yourselves, man, because you got potentially a championship right in front of you. Like, soak that up. I'm jealous as hell about that. So, anyway, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, and I didn't see enough screens to make a full judgment on whether he's a good enough screener or not, but I will say that it was pretty jarring not having those massive screens by Nurkic out there, and watching him last night freeing up some of the shooters on Phoenix. So yeah, that is also something else to maybe, like, just the feel for each other is off, and the chemistry is not quite there yet since they didn't really play a lot together yet in actual games. But yeah, it's like knowing when to re-screen, knowing the angle to screen, knowing which side to screen on. Ed Davis was also someone who was really good at those kind of things. And that's why
that'd be huge for Scoot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that'd be huge for Scoot, having Nurkic's screens, man.
Yeah, so hopefully at some point too in Ayton's career he can take pride in that kind of stuff as well, because I think I think he has the athleticism to set good screens. You don't have to be athletic, but I mean I think he has the ability to do it. So yeah, I'm going to be trying to focus on that in the coming games.
There's a comment from Code, who's a Suns fan, says, watch how slow he is off the pick and roll. I actually criticized him for that today, where he sets a screen and then, like, kind of walks towards the free throw line, just, like, obviously wanting to shoot a mid-range shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like a pick and pop, but it wasn't really a pop. He just kind of, like, stood where he screened the ball. Like, he didn't really get away from the action, which if you screen and both defenders go to the ball, you got to create space because your defender is with the ball. Your defender is away from you, so you should get away from them. Right? And that's the thing with Nurk. I think Nurk kind of struggled. There's like a passing window in between the two defenders on a pick and roll. When both guys go with the ball, there's a window of space in between them. The big needs to get in that window of space. He needs to make it so you can pass him the ball. There was a play today where like there was a passing window and it was, towards like 5 feet, 7 feet away from the rim, where like if Ayton just rolled into that window, he probably could have had a dunk, and he just stood at the free throw line. And it was like, roll, go, like go into the passing window, get that pocket pass, which that's what they call it, get that pocket pass, and finish strong. So I've seen him do that. It's not like he doesn't do that. I just want him to do it more consistently, and that's the thing he has to do. If he's not going to set like massive screens, you got to be able to make pick and roll defenders pay by rolling hard and finishing. You got to be a threat. You got to be even more of a threat because you're not creating as much space with your screens. So
it sounds like I'm helping coach my son's soccer team and trying to teach them, like, you can't just stand in between like your teammate with the ball and the defender if you want, and yell pass to me or whatever. Like, you have to find the right angle to pass to them, and you have to get into the space that's available for your teammate to be able to do that. So that happens in a lot of different sports where you need to be aware of that kind of thing. You can't just expect to get the ball all the time if you're not moving into that space, like you said.
Yeah, 100%. Other players I want to talk about. Tamani Kamara played 16 minutes, and I thought he was playing really good basketball when the Blazers made their comeback run. In 16 minutes, he was actually a plus 13. Plus 13. Yeah. Now, it helped that he was on the floor when Brogdon got going. You know what I mean? Like, that's why you can't just look at plus minus. But 2 for 2 from 3. He was 0 for 3 inside the arc, but 2 for 2 from 3. Had a couple of rebounds, an assist, a block. But he's just, like, active. He's just around the ball when there's rebounds to be had. Like, he boxes out. He's, for a rookie in their debut, like 2 for 2 from 3, you love to see it. He does have to improve on like his handle and then like finishing inside. Like, he's able to kind of hang in the air and maneuver, but the problem is I think he gets a little too fancy with a couple of his layups. Like, that floater he missed was basically at the shot clock buzzer, but like turning back to his right hand was a little weird. Like, there's gonna be some things with his dribble drive game that he needs to improve, but I think coming in, hitting a couple threes, and then he had a kick out pass to, I believe it was Brogdon on the break, which was a really nice kick out pass, and it was like, wow, look at us run, and Tamani Kamara's in the middle of it because of course
I didn't think he did a whole lot in the first half. Kind of just was feeling the game out, I think. But, really liked his effort on the second half. And that one, he had a nice move. He got right to the rim, basically, but had defender on him still. Pump faked, went kind of up and under, missed the layup. But I think that was the one where Sharp came in and slammed it home.
Yeah.
I like his activity. I noticed off ball. Because the Clippers were setting some off-ball screens. He was doing a good job of getting through those.
Mm-hmm.
That block that Ayton had, he did a nice job, even though he initially got lost for a second and his guy got a pass and was about to score. He did a good job of recovering. And I think with that length and closeout ability, I think that is something that he can do well is recover even if he gets beat. And that's something you can't really teach to players who don't have that ability. I was glad to see that he I think it's official as of right now. I don't know if it'll change at all, but I think it's safe to say that he won the backup forward job, whether that was Jeremy playing the 3 and him playing the 4, or Tamani coming in as the 3 and Jeremy still at the 4. But he was the first forward off the bench out of the Jabari, Chris, and Tamani trio. So I was glad to see that he was rewarded for his solid play so far as a Blazer.
Yeah, 100%. And then Matisse Thybulle is the final starter. We haven't really. Do you want to talk about Grant a little bit? He's 5 for 12 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3, 13 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block. 3
rebounds. That's good.
That's bad. That is good.
I know.
That is bad. That is good, man. I'm hoping we trade Jeremy Grant this season. Like, on a contending team, maybe he can play the right role where he fits. But he just, I don't know, man. Like, defensively, does he really have that much of an impact? It doesn't really feel like it. The Blazers were still a bad defense last year. He's not a guy that can lock down guards. Rebounding, he doesn't do. He was kind of a black hole with tunnel vision this game. Like, he wasn't making the right pass when he was there. He had a few nice finishes. The problem is like, even more so than last year, it feels like this year, the preseason in this game is just like, I'm going to try and get to the rim and finish. And if I don't, well, oh well. Like, if I turn the ball over, oh well. If I shoot a terrible shot, oh well. I'm just going to try and get to the rim. Oh, I can't get to the rim? Okay, I'm going to stand here, dribble a few times, and then like try and set up a mid-range fadeaway. And you hit a few of them, but it's like either I'm getting to the rim or I'm shooting a mid-range fadeaway.
Yeah.
When he has the ball in his hands. 0 for 4 from 3, so he's 5 for 8 inside the arc, so it's not even like it's bad offense, but he had 3 turnovers, 1 assist. Like, he's the type of guy where the ball stops. And when we talk about needing to move better and freelance better, he's one of the guys who just stands around, and then when the ball gets to him, he doesn't move it. And he contributes to the problem of the style of play of the offense. And it's like, he's a good player, but on this team that needs to learn how to move the ball, that is a rebuilding team, like, needs to learn how to play the right way, I don't know if he makes sense, you know?
Yeah, I agree. The problem is, I don't know if, I mean, we just talked about Kamara, but I don't know if he's ready to be like a starting for
Kamara?
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it can be, but I don't know if if we're still trying to like be the best version of this team this year, I still think we're better off with Jeremy. But
yeah,
once again, are we trying to be the best version of the
like
Blazers?
long term? Like, what's the point? You know,
right.
I mean, do you resign him to try and get value for him? I'm wondering on this contract if they can.
Yeah, I think they can. I think there's going to be multiple teams that. I mean, we have a lot of players actually. If we choose to be sellers, I think. I mean, Cronin's phone should be blowing up between like January 15th and the trade deadline for all these guys. And I just think if you play your hand right, I think maybe hopefully they're saying they're keeping all these guys now just to not get leverage later when they decide to trade them. But yeah, I mean, they have multiple guys at multiple different, like pretty much every position that they could offer. Now, some teams might have trouble matching a Jeremy Grant salary wise, but yeah, I think assuming we're not in the playoff race or play-in race, or winning the in-season play-in tournament or the in-season tournament, that would make our roster stay together, right? They're not trading anyway. If we win like all those games.
Yeah.
Could you see that we wins like 6 games in the middle of the season in the in-season tournament, and then we
base our
decide to max everyone out.
Yeah, all of our offseason off like a 6-game sample out of an 82-game season. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, at least that's better than basing your entire offseason off a 4-game sample of an 82-game season like we did a couple of off seasons ago. But yeah. So hopefully they're able to get value back for Jeremy, the other starter. Matisse Thybulle, like, he hit a couple threes. He shot well in a Blazer uniform. He's 2 for 6 from 3, though, 33%. Like, that's not great. 3 for 7, whatever. He plays 20 minutes, Eric. 2 turnovers, 1 assist, 1 rebound. And it's like the same problem with Jeremy Grant. Like, no rebounding, no playmaking for others. And they both combined for 5 turnovers and 2 assists. And they're both guys that are thought of as good defenders, but like I didn't feel like Thybulle was that impactful defensively today, and that's kind of a feeling I had last season. I just who does he lock up? Like, what did he do anything positive defensively today? Did I miss something? I know he got a steal. That's like the only thing that really stood out to me. I don't, for a guy that made an all defensive team, I've had this feeling for a while. Like, he's just not that level of impactful on the defensive end.
Yeah, I still think he needs to somehow get positioned better. This is more of a scheme thing, but like just in a position to play the passing lanes up top more.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like today he was stuck a little bit, kind of like I was mentioned about Anthony last year. He was stuck a little bit too much trying to be our rim protector or guard up big inside, and that's just not his game really, or his defensive ability. So I'd much rather him being flying around and chasing steals on the perimeter, and our defense wasn't good tonight anyway, so you might as well take some chances sometimes, and maybe it works out for you, maybe it doesn't. But I don't mind his gambling on this particular team, but as long as it's more up top than down low.
Yeah, 100%. We'll talk about a couple other bench players, but before we get to that, this postgame show is brought to you by Manta Sleep Mask, one of my favorite sponsors because I actually use their product. They have a wide range of sleep masks to fit your needs, sleep aids as well, blue light glasses, all sorts of stuff over at mantasleep.com. There's a link in the description box below. They make for a really good gift. This is the sound mask. They got Bluetooth speakers built into them, so you can listen to rain as you fall asleep, so you can distract yourself from this loss that the Blazers just took. You can listen to us with your Manta Sleep Mask on, and we can put you to sleep. I don't know how good or effective we are at that, but some people said they actually fall to sleep to us. I don't know how to feel about that, but it's a thing apparently. So you can get yourself a Manta.
That's a compliment.
Yeah, I'll take it as a compliment. Take what we can get, right? So they make for a really good gift too. Christmas is coming up. Don't procrastinate that. Get somebody you care about a Manta Sleep Mask. They make for a really good gift for the loved one in your life. Thank you to them for sponsoring this post-game stream and sponsoring the channel. They make a really awesome product, and they are a really cool company. All right, Eric, let's talk about Shaedon Sharpe. 28 minutes. There's a question Garbin's been asking. Did Sharpe play enough? Well, there was like 5 minutes of garbage time, and he played 28 minutes. So, yeah, I think it's fine. He was 6 for 14 from the field, 1 for 6 from the three-point line, and he struggled from 3 in the preseason. If he has a good 3-point shooting game, 3 for 6, and is 8 for 14 and has 20 points, like, you're looking at this game like, wow, that was a really good Shaedon Sharpe game, because he had 6 rebounds on a night where, like, some forward/wings didn't rebound the ball. He had 6 rebounds, also had 3 assists and no turnovers, and also had a steal. Had a couple bad defensive plays, but also had a couple impressive defensive plays. Like, I thought Sharpe played a solid game.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
Yeah, actually, I was impressed with Sharpe. I wish he played a little bit more in the first half and came in a little bit sooner in the third quarter. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. Much like Anthony, I thought at least one of his threes, the one where he caught the ball around the free throw line, ended up backing up like several steps and trying to take like a fadeaway three-pointer. Well, that was a little unnecessary and a bad shot, but yeah, like his one made 3 was on a kick out where he's wide open. I like that a little bit better than him trying to sidestep or fade back when he shoots. But yeah, I really like his aggression on the rebounding. The game kind of changed a little bit when he came in and started crashing the offensive glass at least. He had a couple of nice defensive rebounds as well, but just overall, I thought he had a pretty good game. I'll never fault someone for missing some shots as long as they're not forcing it too much. And outside of one or two shots, I don't think he really forced a lot tonight.
Yeah. I agree with everything you said. Really nothing much else to say. Like, solid game. Wish he was starting. You have something else?
Yeah, I was just the minutes thing. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm fine with 28. I mean, that's probably about as good as we can hope for with Brogdon playing. But yeah, obviously, I wish he was learning how to be the small forward and seeing how that worked. But
yeah,
I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
Other two guys to talk about: Brogdon, 8 for 16, 3 for 5 from behind the three-point arc. I've already talked about him quite a bit. Really calmed down the team and got going there in the second half, and we looked a lot better during that stretch offensively. So I think he's going to be key to winning some games just by being that calming force in the second half, especially being able to run things as a veteran. When in a game where like Scoot's struggling, the offense looked better with Brogdon at the point than with Scoot, which, you know, Brogdon is a longtime NBA veteran and Scoot is 19. This isn't Scoot criticism. It's just kind of a fact.
I mean, he didn't look great early on in this game, and then I think he went on fire, man.
Mm-hmm.
He took a couple of bad shots as well, but yeah, I mean, he can play, dude. Like he's a sixth man last year for a reason. You know, shot 44% from three last year. Shoots 60% tonight. You could tell that he can create his own shot a little bit. I thought he did a decent job setting up the offense when he wasn't looking for a shot. So yeah, I mean, we know Brogdon can play. It's just a matter of is he like good enough to where we win some games we probably shouldn't. And if that's the case, if we need to be good enough to be in the play-in race at least, in my opinion. Otherwise, we're just kind of wasting minutes that could go to development. So yeah, it's just another guy who would be interesting to see if we look to move him or if this is like a guy that we're looking at keeping for at least the rest of this year.
Yeah, 100%. And then the final guy I want to talk about, Robert Williams III, 23 minutes. It was funny because somebody on Twitter was getting mad that I said that he should play 24 minutes opening night. Well, 23 minutes. He's presumably healthy. Like, he was limping at one point. He also lost his shoe twice and then changed shoes mid-game. Hopefully he's fine, but he is very injury prone, so you never want to see him limping.
Yeah, that would not be a good sign.
Not at all. But 10 points, 7 boards, 3 steals, and a block, 2 turnovers, 4 fouls, 5 for 7 shooting for him.
Yeah, I thought he was okay on offense. Defense, I was a little disappointed just based on expectations and how I've seen him play for Boston. But I do have to keep reminding myself he didn't play preseason at all, and this is his first action in a while. So of course you're gonna probably look a little bit worse off than if you were locked in at this point, which I'm not expecting him to be.
Yeah, I mean, 3 steals from your backup center is pretty dang good. Like, he made a few defensive plays, just got out of position, I thought, a few too many times where he's like overhelping, and you know, when your team defense is just conjointed, it'll make great defenders look bad because like they're worried about helping for a guy that they don't have trust in being able to play defense, and therefore they're paying less attention to their guy and might look like they fell asleep, right? But they're worried about someone else in covering, especially as a big man where Robert Williams' responsibility is to help and be that anchor of the defense and help guys that get beat. So it'll be interesting to see, like, once he gets up to speed and gets his legs under him, how he looks defensively compared to how he looks in Boston, because if it's not good, like, man, we really have to focus on getting some perimeter defenders that can play some freaking defense, especially team defense, because that's been a problem for so long, and you also maybe at that point have to question Chauncey even more with his ability to coach defense, given that the problems would span multiple rosters. But until we're at that point, you know, like, not going to worry too much about it. Going to wait for a larger sample size of games for sure.
Yeah, and there was one play in the first half where he kind of switched, but the other, I forgot which guard it was, but whoever it was got through the pick cleanly and could have easily recovered back and actually started to go to recover back, and he just stood there like in his way, so he couldn't get back, and then that guy had to go find someone else to guard, and by that time they had swung it and hit a three. So yeah, just maybe we talked about that all last year, right? Remember we need communication, and this year we're going to be communicating and all that stuff. Well, that's just those are. I don't know if he has this ability in him, but we kind of need a general for our defense, like a floor general, and someone who's going to bark out commands and kind of lead the defense. And it's got to be someone who's a good defender, and it really helps if it's a big, because they're usually in the middle of the court, closer to the basket, and you can see the whole floor from that vantage point. So I do hope that he becomes a little more vocal in those situations, so they don't get caught thinking that it's not a switch but he's switching and stuff like that. That also happened with I think it was Anthony and Sharp, just completely leaving a 3-point shooter on ball and them hitting a three. So yeah, just the communication I'd like to see improved, but like I said, I'm just trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because of him not playing in preseason, but also injury history too. Just got to be super cautious with him, I think, moving forward too.
Yeah, 100%. That wraps up the players I want to talk about. We can listen to this Chauncey interview now if you want.
Sure.
All right.
Overall thoughts on tonight's game?
It was a rough go from the very beginning. Literally from the very beginning, we turned over on the first play of the game, and just never really settled in, you know. But I just didn't feel like we challenged them enough. It's a good team, you know. That team is going to be competing for a championship this year. But we didn't challenge them enough, in my opinion. But we never really got settled in. I thought their pressure really hurt us, turned us over. The rebounding really kind of hurt us. So it was an uphill climb the whole game.
Were you surprised by how poorly you guys started, given the opponent, given their length, their experience, and that you have so many new players and so many young players? I mean, did it shock you?
I wasn't surprised at all. I thought that it would, you know, this is obviously it was going to be a tough game for us. You know, the experience that they have, the size and the experience, knew it was going to come into play. But the only thing that I'm disappointed in just a little is just I just thought we let them catch the ball too easy. You know, they didn't let us catch it easy. We know their plays. They knew our plays.
That's the only thing.
They didn't let us just catch it where they wanted to catch it.
You want to touch upon that?
Not really. It's just weird saying that's the only thing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
He probably didn't mean it that way, but
yeah.
We kind of allowed them to do so. And the game is very easy with no pressure. I mean, basketball is very easy when you're not under duress, and that's kind of what you're seeing today.
Coach, obviously so much of this season is about the development and growth of skill.
Yeah.
And I think some people have the impulse to react to tonight's game. What do you say to people about that, about jumping to conclusions?
Yeah, I would just say there's going to be some nights that he looks 19, and tonight was one of those nights. And
Tell Cronin that.
I'm not surprised by it. Sometimes we sat here and talked, and I said I'll be interested to see at what point he calms down. It never really happened, until the end of the game when the game was out of reach. But that's just a part of it. That's a part of where we're at. And when you're developing a young player in particular at that position, it's not easy. It's not easy.
And so much of this is also how you are going to coach him and bring him along through this.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know what your next move is going to be with him? Do you let him breathe? Do you console him?
No. We'll sit and watch it and talk about it because I first and foremost I want to say what he's seen and what he thought. Sometimes what he's seen and why he might feel like he struggled is probably different than the way that I see it. But I always want to allow them to tell me first, so they're not just saying what I say, if that makes sense. So, yeah, it'll be like this sometimes this year, where sometimes I got to kind of step back and just let it happen, because that's how you learn, experience is kind of the best teacher. I still remember some of my rookie games as a rookie when I had 9 turnovers and 8 turnovers and who it was against and where it was at. Like, you just remember those things. So some of it is going to be me stepping back, letting it happen, and some of it I got to step in and say, okay, hold on. So be touch and go.
Did you feel like he was just tight tonight, or what did you actually see that was holding him back from showing everything that you think he's capable of?
Yeah,
was it nerves, tightness?
I thought he was I thought he was nervous, for one. I think the main thing that happens in this position is you want to play good so bad, and that can kind of overtake you, So it was a lot probably coming at him. Look at who we were playing against. That's a good team. They're out there to prove, like, no, not against us. We know he's probably going to be not tonight. That's another thing that you don't even think about, and so you could tell, with how Russ played out there, backing us down, kind of taking advantage of our size against him, like that's how this game is. But those are great moments to learn from.
How did you feel in the moment that he responded to kind of the game going the way that it went for him? We couldn't really see the bench from our angle, but did you see him getting frustrated or getting discouraged during timeouts and stuff? How do you feel like he kind of hung with it?
That's the thing that made me most happy, to be honest with you. As he struggled today, you couldn't tell. He was still locked in everything I said. He's looking me in my eyes. Anytime a teammate tried to help him, he's looking at him in his eyes, and he's going to be one of those type of guys that whether he's playing great or he's not playing that great, you're never going to know in his demeanor, So he didn't hang his hat. He had open shots. He shot them. He missed it. So what? He turned it over. He got back. He tried to get back into the play. To me, that's a big deal. That's a big deal because it's easy to lose confidence in the moment, when you're not playing well, when you're used to playing great. It's natural.
First chance to see Rob in live action. What'd you think? How do you feel like he performed, particularly with that second unit?
Yeah, I thought Rob did a pretty good job. Obviously, D.A. getting in foul trouble early kind of hurt the rotation, hurt the minutes, the plan, at least. So it kind of shuffled some things around. But I thought Rob came in and did a pretty good job. But in all honesty, I don't think anybody, with the exception of maybe Ant and Malcolm, I don't think anybody really settled in all night. You know, it was a kind of a clunky game. But some of that is nerves, and a lot of that is who you're playing against. You know, that's going to be probably a top 2 or 3 defensive team in the league this year, in my opinion. So a lot of that is them. You know, you got to give them that credit.
Can you give me your assessment on DeAndre tonight? He got in early foul trouble, but I think he only had like 4 points and a handful of shots. What was
He
going on
struggled
with him?
too. DeAndre struggled, you know, and I don't think he played with a lot of force. You know, foul trouble will do that to you. You know, a lot of times it'll kind of get you off of what you want to do from an aggressive standpoint. He rebounded the ball pretty well, but every time he got the ball, you know, there were 2 or 3 people around. So if he tried to get to us, he was turning it over. They was deflecting it. So again, I thought he was very anxious, you know, to prove what he could do. So I thought nerves, along with you know, the foul trouble, kind of threw DA off.
Overall thoughts on tonight?
Alrighty. I mean, I don't think it was a bad press conference. I mean, didn't really say a whole lot. Like, wouldn't really expand on what any specifics within the game that Scoot struggled in. Just like, you know, he wants to prove himself. He wants to play well so bad. You know, like a lot of cliches in there. Whatever. Any thoughts on anything specifically that he said those final 6 minutes?
Not really that I haven't said already.
Yep. Anyway, yeah, we'll be listening to interviews all season long. Anyway, anything else for this post-game string that you want to get into? We're 2 hours in.
No, I just appreciate everyone for watching. If you watch both the watch party, Blazers Uprise Live, and this post-game show, and some of our videos from earlier in the day, I appreciate all of you especially.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you everyone. It was fun to talk some actual basketball, and hopefully moving forward we have some real nice moments to talk about.
Yeah, 100%. We got you guys covered. Tomorrow, probably going to be a video, maybe 2, going into a couple little things with this game, so stay tuned for that. And then Friday, we got the Orlando Magic heading into Portland. It's the home opener for the Blazers, so we'll see if they can start off 1-1, because they're 0-1 right now after losing to the Los Angeles Clippers. They made it a little bit respectable late, but this was a rough one. Clippers led by 30, 27 from Paul George. He cooked us 11 for 17. Kawhi 9 for 17, 23. Ivica Zubac 20 points, 12 boards, 4 blocks. He was dominant, the big man in the middle. Couple fun moments in this game, but there's going to be growing pains with this team, and we're going to cover all of them. Hoops Crush will be coming up next Wednesday, Spencer. I'm sure you
Did
guys
you watch the one from today?
Yeah, there's one today. There was a 503 podcast today. But yeah, we got you guys covered with the content. Once again, thank you to our sponsor, Manta Sleep Mask. Get yourself a sleep mask. Get someone you care about a sleep mask. There's a link in the description box below. Lots of options over there. Great company. Go check them out. Use the promo code Uprise. You save 10%, and you help us out. It's a triple win. Yeah, we'll be live again on Friday, Eric.
Yeah.
Friday.
I might not be actually. I forgot to tell you. My dad's memorial is on Saturday, and I'm going to be out of town Friday through Sunday, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to stream on Friday night or not.
That's fine. Maybe. That's the thing with the podcast guests, is got people to fill in.
Yeah.
In case I'm gone or you're gone. So, once again, condolences to you with what you're dealing with, and yeah, we'll see what we got on Friday. So, looking forward to seeing if the Blazers can beat the Magic. That should be a fun game, fun team. I'll have a preview Friday morning for that one, so stay tuned. And with that being said, that's a wrap for this post-game show. We'll catch you next time. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.